And we're live.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so let me show you what I do in here with the laptop situation to reduce bandwidth.
Ah, nice.
Yeah.
He's a little bit blurry.
Who is?
That camera thing.
Oh, is my
No,
upload?
not you, Tom.
Yeah, hold on. Let me adjust this before we
Us.
Okay.
Watch this.
Oh, focus.
Yeah.
But then my head has to be at the same.
It's a little bit of imaging for you, live imaging.
Live imaging. Live imaging where? On what show is this?
Undersampled Radio.
Episode
142.
72. You may notice if you're watching this on YouTube, let's try this. If you're a very discerning podcast listener, you may notice something about today's episode, which is quite different than normal episodes.
Yeah.
If you know what it is, put it in the comments box below.
Yeah, something that doesn't happen very often. But when it does, oh my goodness.
If you're watching on YouTube, you obviously know what's happening. And what's happening is, now that you've put the comments in your comment box on your non-existent comment box, Matt is in Austin. We are here together, broadcasting live from the studio booth that is my living room.
Good times.
Matt, welcome to Texas.
Hey, thanks a lot.
You're supposed to say, howdy, partner.
Howdy, partner.
There you go. Yes, it is episode 72. We have a doubly amazing show for you today because not only is Matt here, but we have an awesome guest as well. Before we introduce our guest, though, we're going to don't talk about it. We're going to we covered this. The first news bullet point is Matt's in Austin. Surprise. Next bullet point is Matt is giving a talk at, what's it called? Did you find out what it's actually called?
The BEG is what people call it.
BEG, yeah. Which stands for?
The Bureau of Economic Geology, which is essentially the Geological Survey of Texas. Like I think in many states it's called the Geological Survey, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So the director of the BEG is the state geologist, I guess. And yeah, I was there today on campus. It's really confusing because there's the Jackson School of Geosciences, which you might have seen on, obviously lots of geoscientists there writing papers and whatnot. And I was a bit confused about Jackson School, the BEG, University of Texas. And it turns out there's two campuses in Austin, one in kind of North Austin, about 10 miles north of downtown. And that's the BEG. And it's on this big campus with a big fence around it and security gates and whatnot. But turns out my driver today just drove through no problem. They kind of waved him through. So I'm not sure what all the thing. And there's a building there that's geology. Next door is UTIC, a geophysics building.
What's UTIC stand for?
I can't remember.
Okay.
Do you know?
I don't. I was just grilling you on acronyms. What's ATX stand for?
UTIG. It must be UTIG because it's something in geophysics or blah, blah. Anyway, whatever.
Temporal inversions of geophysics.
On my way in, it goes Jackson School of Geoscience. So the Jackson School is both of them. Mm-hmm. And it seems like the BEG people refer to the downtown campus.
This is a long story to get to the bullet point, which is Matt is giving a talk at the BEG at 1 tomorrow, which is Friday the 16th. And
no.
Well, okay, hold on.
See, this is why you needed my explanation. I'm not giving a talk at the BEG at 1 o'clock. I'm giving a talk at 9 o'clock.
AM?
Yes.
Oh, man.
At 3 o'clock, I'm giving a talk at the downtown campus. The other bit of the Jackson School. I don't know.
Wait, hold on. I got to update these show notes as we go. And
now, there's a piece of news about the 1 o'clock talk that you'll be interested in, but maybe I won't mention it right now.
Wait, hold on. Let me get this all straight. At 9 a.m. tomorrow, you're giving a talk at the BEG.
Yes.
And then at 3 o'clock tomorrow, you're giving a talk at the downtown campus.
Yes.
Okay. Are either of those talks open for randos like me to go to?
That's a really great question, and I don't really know the answer.
We're really good at advertising here on Undersampled Radio, so if you'd like to sponsor the show, please contact us.
I mean, I feel like if you showed up, no one's going to turn you away if you're,
Of course.
a geoscientist with full credentials.
I am fully credentialed.
There you go.
Okay, next bullet point. I will be giving a talk somewhere, which I thought it was at the BEG, next Friday, doing maybe the same thing that Matt's doing. I'm not sure.
No, it's different.
Okay. My talk is going to be deep learning transposicated.
That is not a word.
Onto exploration. It's actually your word. You invented that word 2 weeks ago. Don't know if you remember that.
Was that the bourbon day?
Were you drinking? That's what that was.
Okay, transposicated.
I was on water that day. Okay. Yeah. What are your talks about tomorrow?
Unsolved problems in geoscience, applied geoscience.
Both talks? You're reusing a talk the same day?
It's an adaptation of the morning talk. Like, it's temporally shifted.
Mm-hmm. University of Temporal Inversion Geoscience. Hey, we've got Tom Creech on the show today. Welcome, Tom.
Hello. Hey, gentlemen.
Tom's a geologist at Exxon. What are you working on?
The mobile's not silent.
Oh, am I supposed to say the mobile?
Yeah.
ExxonMobil. Sorry, that's representing all my mobile friends, heritage mobile friends at work.
Yeah. I thought for sure that mobile was going to go away after a couple of years, and it never did.
I obviously thought that
it doesn't. It still gets shorthanded quite a bit. Bloomberg's kind of nefarious or notorious for never using the full name anymore. But no, we try to.
Yeah.
The Pegasus came from the mobile side, so that's, pretty cool icon we don't want to lose.
Yeah, for sure. So you've got some side gigs as well, I see in the show notes.
Yeah.
You are building curriculum for K through 12?
So one of the things that I get to do that my employer is also supportive of is work with United Way a lot. Mm-hmm. A lot, in a sustained manner. For the last several years, I've participated in the Teach the Teachers programs and other, things where basically volunteers go in, they can teach a short sort of boxed lesson, such as rock and mineral identification or material on some other energy topics. And those sort of canned lessons are put together by others so that really anyone can volunteer to go in and share the lesson. So I had been pretty involved in putting some new lesson packages together. Started that about 4 years ago, around the time some of the new STEM curriculum standards came out. And
that core?
So that was, what's that?
That related to core education?
Yeah. So the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics core curriculum for the state of Texas. And so, some of these topics, especially more recent ones in the environmental space, are fast moving and recent, since many of the teachers went to school and learned about earth science. So we also had some really nice sessions where we went out and just taught the teachers. And I did, I think, a total of 3 full-day workshops over a couple of years that way. And one of the next things I'm looking towards is actually a year ago, I went to, so it was actually PAX South, board gaming and video game development convention. But the Microsoft, or let's see, Bill and Melinda Gates, no, Microsoft Philanthropies was there. I tried to find some better material before the show, but was running a little late. So I have this little piece of mint candy swag to remind me. But 2 years ago, I chatted with the folks here, and it's TEALS, Computer Science in Every High School, part of Microsoft Philanthropies. And their address is tealsk12.org. And they're trying to bring more computer science into K through 12. And when I went to, the conference was actually in Austin a couple years ago, and I dropped in for a day. And what I was struck by is that there were a lot of people kind of coming in to educate students and try to inspire, younger elementary and middle school age kids through high school into the computer sciences, which is great. But what I didn't see as much of was how computer science can flow the other way into industry and into other areas, in the sciences being a great example. So that got my gears turning of wanting to kind of put something together that was much more technology leaning, but that was still in the vein of this, volunteerism and education. And so at that point in time, I was like, I need to learn Python. And, then I kind of looked around and then things got busy. So this volunteer activity ebbs and flows a lot. And, didn't really things didn't all come together. So I didn't get much traction on teaching myself Python at that point in time. But then just a few months ago, I think in the show notes, I even alluded to that essentially it was the great flu pandemic of 2017 that made it all come together, because I was on my back on the couch for a couple of weeks straight. And, once I had my basic functions back to normal, but was still quite sick.
Move your digits, you were good.
Yeah, I proceeded to, at that point, watch all of the YouTubes for SciPy 2015, 16, and 17, and JupyterCon the last two or so, found y'all's show, and a few other things, and was just blown away. Even in that compromised state, I was so inspired by all of that material. I'm like, wow, there's a whole vibrant community around this topic now in just 2 years' time. So that really kind of rekindled that fire. And so now I'm chipping away at things in earnest, with a real goal to kind of try to weave these two things together.
Yeah, right.
The science education topics with a little bit of Python.
But so you were originally inspired to learn when you sort of faltered the first time, by the educators or by the kids learning?
Well, so I never brought the coding piece into the mix.
Right. Okay.
So I was doing these other activities that I was describing, and then went to this more, computer science themed K through 12 volunteer education session. And then thought about how to maybe marry the two together.
Yeah, right.
And then it was that, getting the inertia built, kind of getting over that activation energy that it was a bit tough, in our day-to-day lives.
I love how that is a really good story about volunteering and how it kind of gives back to you and inspires you back, right?
Yep, it absolutely does.
That's really cool. And now you think more people should get debilitating flu to learn to program.
Yeah, it could be. Maybe we make this sort of an inverse vaccination program at school. No, I wouldn't recommend that.
Tom, what are you doing at the old Roll Tide in Furman?
Yeah, so Roll Tide, thank you for acknowledging our greatness. Sorry. You were from recent Cajun country, Graham.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I didn't want to weigh on your conscience too much by putting a show note in there about Go Tigers, but whatever.
But yeah, so at Furman, sort of mountains of upstate South Carolina, beautiful setting, the Blue Ridge Front. It's just a great. I think my geology department there were 6 of us. And 6 faculty member in different subjects. So really great, great engagement there. We had the flexibility to go on great field trips, week-long transects, a lot of hard rock, and my background from that point in my life, because we're sitting right in the core of the Appalachian Mountains. And so, you've got ophiolite suites stacked up on top of things. You've got just you've got Grenville, basement exposed in a couple of spots. And then you've got all the valley and ridge just to the west. So that was a beautiful spot. And then there was also a great NSF research experience for undergrads program that they got started. So I was fortunate enough to be able to start doing some field work and really learn, the research process at my undergraduate institution. And the first year there, we worked on the Savannah River site. I logged a bunch of core that had been drilled for siting of the nuclear reactors back in the 50s, I guess that would be, maybe 40s, 50s.
Was the core?
What's that?
How deep was the core?
Into the myelinite shear zones in the basement. So through the rift basins and all the way down. And so it's pretty spectacular. And so these were 6-inch diameter core. Wow. Like where I'm going with this is we don't drill core like this anymore, or very few people do. So 6-inch diameter core from surface all the way down. I want to say, well, I probably shouldn't say because I'll be way off, but I think the core went down to about 4,000 feet. Really deep.
Wow.
I wish I had. Yeah, I'll make an edit in the notes for the show if I'm off by more than 20%.
That's the threshold.
Better than the rest of our assumption.
But
it's the order of magnitude that we worry about.
Okay, yeah. And so that was a great experience, and so great. Great exposure to rocks that few people have seen.
Yeah.
Challenging in the respect that this is sitting in Aiken, South Carolina. These were summer endeavors. We poured the core out of abandoned Navy barracks and laid them all out on the asphalt. And they were all in like heavy wood boxes. So like 2 5-foot segments of 6-inch diameter rock in a like wooden crate.
Pretty good work.
And haul all of that out in the morning to line it all out, like, make notes as fast as you can and then haul it all back in. And it was a wonderful experience. And in fact, looking back, I was thinking about it earlier today. I wish I were a better geologist back then. I would have pulled my weight a bit more beyond just the physical labor piece. But I certainly learned a tremendous amount. So that was a great experience. And then they also started up, again at Furman, a watershed research effort. And so that is kind of the springboard that got me into fluvial systems and aqueous geochemistry and sediment transport and sort of coastal geomorphology type themes. And those are probably the themes I use most today. And so then at University of Alabama, my first project, my master's, started out with work with Alan Dennis and Antonio Rodriguez on inside valley systems in the Mobile Bay area specifically. So I had some good summers there. And then I transitioned back into a sort of a nitrogen cycling, aqueous biogeochemistry of lake systems topic, and looking at trace metal loading, anthropogenic nitrogen loading, and some other interactions, sediment water interactions in our local water supply reservoir in Tuscaloosa.
Is this for your PhD?
So that latter part was for my PhD, which I did not complete, but came within sight of the finish line and worked with some great people. Yeah. And then, kind of made a tough choice to come to work before that was quite finished, and then immediately began seeing the world and all kinds of other things that took my full attention to keep up with. But I think when we were chatting a couple of weeks ago, it may have come up that I was kind of thinking of maybe going back and starting again and maybe going in a little bit different direction. So haven't looked around much, but What's that?
What direction would you go in?
Good question. At this point, I've seen so much in industry, and I'm kind of just I like living in the exploration space because you have to integrate so much. So a very non-specific answer. I don't know. Um, it would it would likely be either in sort of coastal geomorphology and stratigraphy again, or in maybe geochemistry as applied to diagenetic processes.
And here's the ringer.
Mm-hmm.
Why do it?
Personal goal completion.
Nice.
Personal satisfaction.
Feels like unfinished business.
We're doing it. Yeah, it does. It does. And, it's been a while. It's been about 7 years at this point, I guess. So, yeah, it would be just for me. And, in hindsight, I probably should have waited before starting. Mm-hmm. So for anyone out there caught in a predicament of, worrying about your finance and your funding to stay at grad school versus jobs versus other things, life in general, they're tough choices, but just be realistic about your own capacities to be in 3 places at once, and and make a choice based on realistic factors. So
Sounds like
it's tough to be multiple places at once.
Yeah.
Indeed, it is.
Yeah, my wife, she finished her master's after taking a job, and it was hard, and not enjoyable. And because her, the job was 300 miles from where she was studying, so yeah, it was difficult. And I do feel too like writing up often feels like a really massive task, and I can't speak for the American system, but I think in the UK we often, again, it's a long time since I was at grad school, but put a very high bar on it, when really it's just finishing up and writing what you've done. Like I feel like it doesn't. Maybe this is just me, but I blew it up into a big task that took me a year, and I don't think it should be like that.
What else? I mean,
because the research is the work, not like the writing up is.
I see what you're saying. Okay, so my writing was quite a bit different. My writing was iterative, so I was writing while I was doing the work.
Yeah, and I think that's a good way to do it too.
That's probably a good way to do it. That's not the way I approached either.
Well, it means I probably write 10 times as much.
I definitely had a sort of Zeno's paradox at the end of fiddling with infinite precision on drawings and this kind of thing.
Oh,
totally unnecessary level of execution.
A computer did all my figures for me. So,
well, I'm from a different era, Graham.
Yeah.
It was all quills and printing presses.
Written by candlelight.
The engraving actually was very difficult. Yeah.
What's this, Tom? What's this about Atari? You build games.
What?
Yes, you'd asked.
Don't tell me you designed Pac-Man.
Me in the show notes. No. You'd asked me in the show notes about, or as we were chatting before, kind of what my prior coding experiences had been. And I actually have a visual aid for you, so I'm glad you asked.
Love visual aid.
But I'm about to investigate in excruciating detail.
I really wanted him to whip that off.
I don't know if the audience will be able to see this or not, but the picture at least will be visible. So this is, I used this recently at a meeting just as like an icebreaker, kind of like, an about you slide. So that's the Atari 400. And so to answer your question, Graham, I first coded in BASIC on the Atari 400, and that was like circa 79 to 84 or so. And what's fascinating to me about this picture is, like all game consoles, it had a cartridge, but check out that cassette deck.
Yeah.
It had like the miniaturized solution for home use of a mainframe reel-to-reel magnetic tape storage device. Using just cassette tapes, which were already in everyone's Walkmans and everything. So I thought that was kind of elegant.
Believe it or not, when I was in grades, I think I was in the same grades, 4 to 6. Let's see. No, I was slightly older. It would have been a 5th to 7th grade. I also did a lot of basic programming. My dad is an electrical engineer, and he gave me a computer with a basic terminal instead of whatever, you know. So I feel your pain.
Yeah, so I just had, hours in the basement in the winter, just like using Turtle Graphics type things and some of the other things to draw. What else did I do? Oh, so I don't know if either of you have experienced like Zork or Zill, some of those choose your own adventure games through keypad. Right. So it basically just took the simple act of a choose your own adventure book and, put it on the screen.
Yeah.
But coded some of that. So those were like my first conditional logic statements and logic gates. And then in thinking about it and in thinking of introducing coding to some of this high school and middle school curriculum, one of the real drivers there is I got a great start in this space. And then, of course, benefited from all the video games in the 80s and such, but dropped, active use of machine language by middle school, didn't touch it in high school, didn't even touch it in college until like my senior year in undergrad. Worked with IDL and MATLAB and things in grad school. But then that spigot was shut off again when I entered the workforce.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know, it just kind of fascinates me that there's so much opportunity there from an educational perspective. And then just to build like capabilities, because it's powerful. It's one thing to have great software, and it's another thing to just have access to maths and a good tool to work the maths. It's nice to have both.
Yeah, right.
So when I was doing basic, I obviously didn't know what I was doing, but I also didn't have anything to do with it, right? So I stopped because I didn't. It's hard. I mean, we all know it's hard to program, right? And if you're not trying to solve some problem that you want to solve, you're just not. I wish that I had been more into video games, because maybe I would have been a video game player these days.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that would have been an objective, at least. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like we had a similar experience, though. I mean, I moved from basic into C. That was I did almost all of my grad school work in C.
Oh, wow.
It was not a high time in my life.
Did you see my comment in the show notes about C? I used it no longer than I had to.
Now we're all using things like Python and Julia. And I mean, even MATLAB. Say what you want about MATLAB. It's powerful and it's high level, and you can just learn it.
Is that like a version of Octave?
Open source everything. Actually, after this, Tom, Matt and I are going to get tattoos. He's going to get open source junkie.
Is it free?
It's like the logo for like the GPU license.
Yeah.
I don't like the GPL.
General public GPL.
Yeah, I actually like the tattoo idea, though. I might steal that.
I don't like the GPL.
You're in the right town for it.
Has Exxon ever open sourced any code? I don't think so. I can't think of it.
I do not know.
Because, there's like several oil companies. I'm not saying there's a trend of it, but I mean, several have dabbled, let's say. BP released seismic processing system, and so did ConocoPhillips. And then more recently, Statoil have released a Segway reader, or a Segway reader and writer, Segway IO. And I think all of those use the GPL. Like the GPL, for some reason, weirdly, you would almost think, wow, that's weird. The GPL is like, I don't know, some people think of it as like hardcore open source, but it's like,
I mean, it's no MIT.
I mean, several of the other more permissive
is?
licenses came along to be more business friendly. So I think it's weird that the oil companies choose the GPL, but I guess they're sort of like, well, if we're going to release this, we want to make sure that it's, I suppose, difficult to use for commercial purposes and stays open forever, kind of thing.
Oh,
like forks of it will stay open.
Yeah.
But I don't like the trend. I wish they would choose Apache.
So how do those licenses work? Like, which license is sort of most open for, like, which one might I want to use if I put something together with the intention of just making it as useful as possible for teachers and educational institutions so that anyone can pick it up? Like, it'd be nice, for people to say thanks and, acknowledge where things came from, but be, free to add to it and collectively maintain it, which would also kind of potentially keep me off the hook from having to maintain things over time.
You want to say the license at the same time? Ready? 1, 2, 3.
CC 2.0.
Okay.
I mean, the big decision is whether you go permissive or non-permissive. So the non-permissive licenses, or sometimes called copyleft licenses, the main one is GPL, and it has this, what some people call a viral quality, because derivatives have to carry the same license, right?
Oh, okay.
So it's like,
then it kind of,
you can modify my stuff, but if you make that public, it has to have the same license.
So that way people can't sort of take what you've done and then conflate it with something else, potentially minor,
right,
and then lock it down.
Yeah. Whereas permissive licenses essentially let you do whatever you like, as long as you retain the copyright and the license. Like the piece that you modified, it has to, you have to be recognized as the person that made it.
Okay.
But essentially people can do whatever they like. And those include the BSD, the MIT license, and the Apache license. And the subtlety, which I'm not sure I could describe, but the subtlety with the Apache license is that it offers a kind of indemnity. Essentially, if someone tries to claim that, if someone tries to patent stuff, then you withdraw the license from them. So there's this kind of
clawback
for in the case of people trying to patent stuff. So
interesting.
That people like that protection, and that's why we use Apache 2.0.
Okay.
But any of the permissive licenses will essentially let anyone do whatever they want, including commercialize the code.
Okay.
Right. So if that's what someone does, you can't stop them. And they can take it away and make it open source in other ways. I don't know. It is a weird landscape.
So then, is the inverse or converse, I guess, true, where if it's one of these licenses that, sure, someone puts it out, but then says you can't use it for commercial purposes?
People do that.
Does that kind of leave the publisher who is using it for commercial purposes in a position of being able to prevent others from implementing that particular solution?
Yeah. People
almost like an IP or patent in other areas?
Yeah, people definitely try and write licenses that prevent commercial use of things.
Okay.
And some people will have this. So that's inadvisable without a lawyer, I would say. And it's also pointless if you don't plan to sue somebody who contravened, right? I mean, if you have no plans to do that or means to do that, then what's the,
I mean, that's the same thing with patents. Like,
it's the same thing with patents.
You're in the business of litigation, or you're in the business of doing work.
Right. Sure. So the other thing I would say is some people do have a dual licensing. So if you look at OpenDetect, for example, which you probably know about, opendetect.org, it's an awesome seismic volume visualization, volume picking tool for seismic data and well data. They have a free version, which uses the GPL, and then they have a commercial license if you want to use the plugins and get support and maintenance and blah, blah, blah. And the Segway reader what's the Norwegian one called?
Malinov.
No, the one from 60 North. Man, why can't I remember it? Sorry. Anyway, I'll put it in the show
I
notes.
know what you're referring to because it was on software. Someone posted something a little while back referring to it. And then I actually, in noodling around on the websites, found some open source data associated with one of those.
Okay.
So you could actually kind of have some data to monkey around with.
Right. So the 60 North Segway reader is probably the most well-engineered open source Segway reader out there, but it also has a dual licensing model.
Okay.
Yeah. Segway Pi.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Segway Pi. It's, I mean, those guys, Rob Smallshire and I can't remember the other guy's name right now, but they're awesome programmers. Like, they know what they're doing. So it is 100% robust. Austin,
we're going deep on licenses here.
Yeah, sorry.
I want to talk a little bit more about. You brought up the subject of licensing. What are you building? What are you doing?
So really, the only two things I'm actually doing right now. Well, three. Wildly brainstorming, thinking of all kinds of crazy things, and watching these podcasts, being inspired by others. But the two other things I'm actually putting, finger to keyboard over are to take some of these old lessons from the K through 12 thing and put them into, I think, a Jupyter notebook, because holy wow, that's useful. And just a great delivery system. And like, you can read like it's a normal textbook or article, and then also have some interactive space there. So I think that's going to lend itself well to the education space.
Should we talk about my binder?
Oh, I've seen it. Tell me about Binder.
So Binder is a really nice, I guess it's a Jupyter hub behind the scenes. And what's nice about it is you can just give it a GitHub repo and it will create a Docker container. If you're using any non-standard libraries, you have to kind of define them in an environment.yaml so that it set up your environment. Okay. Install whatever libraries you need, but then it creates a Docker and spins up a virtual machine for you, and then people can actually run online at mybinder.org without installing anything locally.
Just click.
Lovely.
Yeah.
So which is an awesome educational tool.
That is awesome. Thanks, guys. Yeah, that's I had found the Google Collab space, which was nice because it already had Python and stuff behind the scenes, but that's a very limited access situation for testing. So this Binder sounds amazing.
Binder's really nice because it's completely open. I guess Microsoft Azure Notebooks is another option, but you have to have a Microsoft account. But the nice thing is that it's running on, like, it sounds like the hardware scales. So if you set off a big job, it'll actually bring more hardware to bear on it. Okay. And they also, I think you get all of Anaconda. So you get all of these scientific libraries.
Oh, fantastic.
That are already there.
Yeah, because I need to make it just as well bundled and easy to get up and running as possible for the teachers and students alike. Because if you can lower the bar a bit, it really helps everyone get over it.
Totally.
And you get better uptake.
Have you? I've experimented a little bit with using Raspberry Pis for teaching. Have you?
No, I haven't. But no, that's good to know. So I haven't yet broken the seal on anything digital with these sort of education volunteer activities yet.
Yeah,
it's been full analog so far.
It's worth checking out Code Club World. Okay, it's a British organization, but they have a ton of really nice content and advice and forums and stuff for people teaching to kids. And it's also worth checking out the BBC. Do you remember BBC computers from the same era as the 400?
I do. And there was a Bloomberg piece on them, or a Hello World piece maybe on Bloomberg not long ago.
Okay, yeah. So
talking about so go ahead.
Yeah, well, so they used to have these Acorn Electron and the BBC microcomputers, and they were big in schools when I was a kid. But they've relaunched a thing now called the BBC Microbit, and it's minuscule. It's almost the size of like a memory card. I can't remember which, like an SD card. It's very small, and it has Python on it, and it costs. In the UK, I think it costs £5, so it's probably about $10. Mm-hmm. So you can afford to buy a bunch of them for a class or whatever. And
that's fantastic,
right?
Yeah.
So it was worth looking at some of these things because they're transformative, I think.
And you know, that's one of the things that still confounds me a bit in U.S. education funding space. Like schools are finding ways to purchase, you know, $800 iPads. Yeah. Although I suppose the most recent lower end ones are now kind of getting in that under 300 point. But in contrast to $10 to $40 per head.
Yeah. And an iPad, which is a completely used.
Yes, you can't.
I mean, it's a completely walled garden, unprogrammable.
Yes.
And it blows my mind that educationalists are into these things.
I keep a list of sponsors that we're never going to get, so we just add.
But I mean, they're consumer devices for shopping and social media and digital media and games, which of course kids love. Like, gotta do something. Like, get them on Linux, basically.
Get them on Atari 400.
Or an Atari 400. But I mean, I feel like the educators sort of don't know what they don't know sometimes.
Yes, yes, I agree fully.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's the challenge of getting some ideas, not all the ideas, just some ideas in front of them, and then arming them with the capabilities to just explore where that goes. Mm-hmm. You know, for what's relevant to them, given their background, given their students' interests. You know, the STEM curriculum is it's a framework. There's actually a lot of room to maneuver around and still address the core curriculum details. So something where, so do you want a device where you have predetermined apps and no degrees of freedom, or do you want a device where you can weave in technology and coding and problem solving and maths into almost any topic? Right. Particularly with all the visualizations, like social studies. You could bring this into social studies class and look at demographic relationships and get into some cool visualizations.
We could build 1 million little data scientists.
Yes.
Speaking of data science, it wouldn't be an Undersampled radio episode unless we talked about machine learning.
Woohoo!
Isn't it great though? Sorry, what did you want to say about it?
So Tom and I had in our conversation a couple of weeks ago, we talked a little bit about machine learning, and you said that you were interested in dabbling, getting into, starting to play with.
Yes, indeed. I kind of had the epiphany during the Great Pandemic. I'm just going to use that a lot from now on. As shorthand.
What the growth episode.
But no, that, you know, so much of the work that I did in grad school, using from experimental design, analysis of variance, you know, principal component analysis, factor, like statistics, some Green's function inverse modeling,
heavy duty.
Like, I mean, I've touched this stuff before. So for the longest time, I was like, artificial intelligence, machine learning, not sure. Sounds way out of my league. I never have the time to learn it. And then I had an epiphany that, like, okay, I can handle this.
And you probably already know a lot of it.
Yeah.
Like the nuts and bolts are there. Linking them together is new. The tools are new. But there are great resources out there, like the ever popular. And what's that? Yeah, Software Underground. And then I was going to be a little more granular and say, and point back to the SEG wiki for the faces prediction exercise from a couple years back.
Yeah, that was your brother.
And so, yes.
Me and Brendan. I remember when we were just running around
In New
In
Jersey.
Unhappies in New Jersey. Is that where we grew up?
Sorry.
See, this is how you perpetuate the myth, because I think, like, in my prior watchings of the show, y'all were joking around like this, and I took
Yeah.
it literally. I
Brendan
didn't see
Paul
the
is not
pre-show
my
clarification.
just for total clarity, not my brother. He's my dad.
So now we're getting into reverse time migration, also known as time traveling, but really meant for something else.
So are you gonna solve reverse time migration with machine learning?
Oh no, that's not my area of any technical depth.
What do you want?
I'm becoming a nascent geophysicist, but I'm by no means an actual geophysicist.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there though. I think there should be a word for. There should be another thing for the people who aren't on the physics side of geophysics, but are on the geology side of
call them a
Yes.
geoscience.
Integrationists. I propose integrationists.
That's right.
Integrologist.
Yeah.
Yes, integrologists.
Hey, Tom, want to hear about a project I'm working on that you might like to take part in?
I do.
Yes.
You've already heard about it. You're not interested.
What are you into?
Be back in a minute.
I'm working with a guy here associated with the BEG on a project to predict the meanders of streams over time using deep
machine learning.
That's it. That's it.
Sweet.
So that's not geophysicsy.
Yeah,
no, yeah,
that is process sedimentology all the way, baby.
Yeah. I'll show you the code. Actually, cool. Just look it up.
It's probably it's on your GitHub now, probably. Hey.
It is.
I had lunch with Zol.
That's very cool.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
He sent me a note.
Funnily enough. And did he?
Uh-huh.
And
he's not coming to dinner.
There's a new plan afoot. So just FYI, geologist who's learning to code. There may be people looking for tutorials, getting started in coding for geologists.
Yes.
Just find a basic subject, 1,500, 2,000 words tops, a little bit of a Jupyter notebook. Bob's your uncle.
Choose the right license.
And choose the right license.
And good to go.
Yeah,
cool. That's good. That's good to know about.
It could be cool, right? So for any geologists who code listening and would like to write up a little tutorial, there is going to be a market for this kind of content. And when I say market, I don't mean you're going to get paid at all. But you will get substantial amounts of kudos.
Pats on the back.
Back slaps at conferences.
and feel good vibes.
Going, I learned Python because of your tutorial.
That's wonderful. And that's very much in the spirit of volunteerism in education.
Yeah,
indeed.
Yeah.
And just community-based learning. That's
my oldest son, Brendan. He often talks about the impact of his tutorial, like how it's influenced you. I think it has touched a great many people, and he always did want to touch a lot of people.
Oh, come on now.
Well,
to which you are referring to the model miniatures of all of the tabletop board games that we play.
Right.
They're little.
If anyone is writing a tutorial on greens functions, you can get in touch with me.
Please, someone write that tutorial. I would like to read that tutorial.
I think it's going to be Tom.
Yeah.
Tom?
Ooh, I will read that tutorial.
Oh.
Okay. We've got 2 readers. Nobody to write it.
Okay.
Well, that's fantastic. And just quickly, not to put too fine a point on it, but that SCG wiki exercise that you're referring back to as a great teaching tool, I'm taking it as a completely blind experiment. I'm pretending like it just came out, because I know it was actually the subject of a number of conference papers. People have explored sort of different solutions to that problem. So I ran through it once. Now I'm thinking about things like how the training data influences outcomes and how my prior experience in logging core tells me that there are lumpers, there are splitters, There's first thing in the morning, there's late in the afternoon. So, the quality of your training data must, it's just intuitive. It would affect outcomes significantly.
How are you going to measure that?
I don't know.
Oh.
Give me a minute. I want to kind of, to make this a really healthy learning exercise, I want to get stumped a few times, and I want to, but as I fear that getting stumped might keep me from progressing at all, I will give a shout out on Software Underground and see what my peeps have to think.
I won't give you the data, as they say in rock climbing.
Yes,
but
exactly.
That's going to be
great
a model that can predict at what time of day the call was logged.
Good. Yes. Where's your rolling error? Is it diurnal?
While Matt pours himself another glass of wine.
Oh, sorry, guys.
I will ask Tom the question. What are you reading at the moment?
Oh,
time already, is it?
It is. Oh, it is.
Oh, it was so much fun.
So I'm reading a couple of things, couple of sort of World War II era history type stuff I mentioned in the show notes. But to keep it a little shorter, I've got this great book off of Amazon.
You bought that thing on Amazon?
Oh, wow.
I did, and it came from, it's circa 1975, and came from the University of Texas at San Ann Library.
Oh my goodness. Wait,
but
you and used, how did you get that on Amazon?
They're just, so they must be shutting down hard copy books at, some of our educational institutions, because they had quite a lot. So for any collectors out there that kind of like some of the original writings on topics in general,
that's cool.
Amazon is partnered with some of the big book distributors that have evidently picked up library holdings. But the reason I have this, I am reading through this because it has some random forest and random walk approaches for bed thickness prediction and some other maths that really feed into several of the vendor tools that are out there today that make an aim at the facies prediction space. 1975. So it's developments in sedimentology, sedimentation. Here, I'll hold it up for a sec. I also have a picture in the show notes, but
I know I'm looking at it right now.
For the audience on the radio, here is this picture.
That's cool.
But it's, so sedimentation models and quantitative stratigraphy by Walter Schwarzacher from Queen's University in Belfast, Northern Ireland, circa 1975. And his citations are of all these Russian mathematicians, like post-war Russian maths folks from the 40s and 50s. And he took what they were doing out of physics and some other space and started applying their statistical methods to geology. It's probably not first citation level stuff, but it's going back a ways.
Yeah, I mean, see books like that, and you sort of wonder, how much of this have we collectively remembered?
Or remembered to forget.
Yeah, I feel like
there's a machine learning.
There's a lot of rediscovery going on, potentially.
Yeah.
Walter Schwarzacher.
Make it.
It's a good Irish name, isn't it? University of Belfast. That's right.
Matt, I see you're continuing with your thread of not putting the book you're reading in the show notes.
Yeah.
So what are you guys reading? Yeah.
Yeah, Graham, what are you reading? I haven't read a book for 2 months.
What are you doing? Writing invoices? I hope.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm quite an analog reader of papers, so this is kind of embarrassing, but I print them out and I bring them with me on airplanes. and I read, because with the bits where you're not allowed to have your devices, I guess there aren't any bits like that anymore, but I pretend like there are, and so I just read my papers, and I like them because I can write on them. I can leave a lot of it behind and just keep the one sheet with my scribbled notes on it or whatever, and I like reading like that.
And you're saving the environment as well. I'm reading a book called Self-Portrait with Boy by Rachel Leon. And man, it is
terrible.
a masterpiece.
It's oh really?
Oh God, it's so freaking good. I'm halfway through. Just beautifully, exquisitely written.
Oh wow! What? It's a novel.
Yes. It hasn't won the Pulitzer yet, but read it.
Okay.
I don't know if you're into the sort of literary fiction, whatever's.
Yeah, I
mean, I was telling you about Joan Didion.
Yeah.
And God,
I still haven't read Joan Didion.
I will. Well, that's just a disservice to yourself. But I will say that Rachel Leon is. I will be reading everything she wrote.
Wow. Do you read fiction, Tom?
I tend to watch it. I'm a bit of a sci-fi addict.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I spend way too much time watching TV some weeks. And so in that vein of thought, I'm not embarrassed to say, or not too embarrassed to say, that I'm very excited that they're coming out with another season of Firefly.
Okay.
Oh, I remember Firefly. That was What's his name? What's the guy's name?
With
Dude,
Mal. The character's name's Mal.
No. The actor.
And he became Castle.
Because they had a movie too, right? It was called
Serenity.
Yes, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, and actually a lot of people didn't survive that movie, so I'm not sure what to expect. Oh, yeah.
Well, it's fiction.
Oh, characters died. Right. The characters.
Yeah.
Sorry.
He doesn't read a whole lot of nonfiction. When people die,
you have got suspended disbelief down. That is good. That's the primary mechanism for enjoying a movie. It's real.
Yeah.
And this is why I can't remember the actors' names.
Yeah, right. They essentially don't have names.
Is that a longboard?
What's that?
Is that a longboard?
Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Do you skateboard to the office?
No, unfortunately, my Houston commute is more like 30 miles.
Ooh.
So I can skateboard to the pubbery and to the local cheese shop down the street and for ice cream. And my dog I have a sled dog, a southern sled dog in the form of a pup who loves to pull me on the longboard at high speed.
That is the most efficient engine there. It's not like Cold Fusion.
Right.
Yeah.
You can kibble and they just go.
It's just puppy chow and away you go.
I skateboard to the office sometimes. That's why I'm asking.
Oh, nice. Austin is a lovely town. Are you enjoying, you settled in?
You want to pull that on? I am. I really like Austin a great deal. We just went to a meetup the other night, and there are so many tech meetups and tech people here. Yeah. How's the scene in Houston?
Oh, it's pretty good. It's a big city, but I've enjoyed that we got to meet up a couple weeks ago.
Yes, that was great.
At a petrol station and met some folks there. So
petrol station?
Yeah.
Without you.
You know that part.
Wait,
yes. Yeah.
Did you have a Scotch egg?
What?
I know I didn't.
Okay.
Actually, I had dragon's milk.
It's okay.
I really like the petrol station. I was just saying that to Zoltan today because that was the last time I got to hang out with him was there, and I haven't been back. Now you guys are having meetups.
Yeah.
Sucks. That's awesome.
Well,
I think it's great.
Next one will be in Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
There'll be a lot of people there. You and Evan.
Yeah. Diego.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need to get out of here. Look,
Okay.
Matt's hairdo is getting messed up.
What about my hair?
It's late in the day.
Okay.
Tom, thanks for joining us.
Yes,
this
sir.
awesome episode.
Yeah, it's really
a pleasure.
Really good.
We'll see you guys next week on Undersampled Radio, episode 73.